guys, and welcome back to the Ultimate Decades Challenge Berry Style official overview. Today we're going to be covering events between the year 1310 and 1319. So when we last left off in 1309, Lucian had just met the beautiful and yet infuriating Viola Underwood, and these two did not get along. He thought that she was pretentious, and she just thought he was like a bit of a prick. The two would go on to settle their differences, find common ground, and fall in love. Lucian and Viola would become married in 1310. Now, also in 1310, Geraldine and Jeremiah would go on to have a daughter named Grace. Unfortunately, in the same year, Jeremiah would pass away from hypothermia. Now, we sort of had a love-hate relationship with Jeremiah at this point, but he was kind of like the comedy center of the series, so that was the main reason we mourned his loss. Otherwise, couldn't care less. Now, also in 1310, King Florent was murdered, in fact stabbed quite violently by his younger brother Leopold. So Florent's youngest child and only son Edward would go on to become the King of England. However, since Edward was only a toddler at this point, Leopold became King Regent to rule in Edward's stead until he became of age. Viola and Lucian would go on to have their first child, Tybalt, in 1311. They were able to have 9 pregnancies, and somehow all of their children miraculously survived their age-up roles. Obviously, something happened here, which we will cover later, but as you can see, they just had so many children. Obviously, the flame was kept alive. Unfortunately for Viola, she does have the hates children trait, and she does not want children, and yet she keeps having them, and they keep surviving, so it's kind of a joke at this point, like how they keep surviving their age-up roles. Now, 1312 was the year that Sybil aged into a child, and Grace aged into a toddler. The family actually struggled with money throughout the harsh winter, however they managed to survive relatively unscathed. In 1313, Leopold married a peasant named Beatrice Montgomery. Beatrice was over the moon that she was able to become a princess and rise above her rank. At this point, King Edward and Princess Eleanor, who were both children, struggled to get along. Eleanor inherited her father's mean streak and held a lot of jealousy over her brother's power. The Great Famine caused a wave of hunger and misery throughout Europe from 1315 to 1317. A series of floods meant that the grain wasn't able to ripen and food was not able to be cured in the sun. The Hawthorne family had to sell all of their crops and animals and only eat 1 meal a day. During the famine in 1316, Alaric saw a hungry girl on the street and gave her an apple as an act of kindness, however never learnt her name. Later that year, he would successfully age up into a teenager. And so the next year, he would actually find out the identity of this mystery girl, and her name was Clementine. After a brief flirtation, the couple married in 1317, the same year that the famine would kill like a quarter of our town. Thankfully, the newlyweds were spared. However, Marsilia did unfortunately pass away, although I think she was due to die like a year later from old age anyway, so it sort of worked out. The royal family was spared from the worst consequences of the famine. Princess Eleanor aged up successfully into a teenager, so Edward and Leopold arranged a marriage between Eleanor and Prince Nicholas of France in 1318. Nicholas's father, the King of France, actually died at their wedding, so Nicholas basically immediately became King of France after the marriage, and Eleanor immediately became the Queen of France. And so the power-hungry Eleanor was just delighted by this. She didn't mind his death at all. So Clementine and Alaric would go on to have their first child, Tristan, in 1318. Unfortunately, he did grow up without his grandparents, but I'm sure Marsilia and Ulysses would have been so proud to see their firstborn grandchild. On a much lighter note, since one of Alaric's traits was that he loves cats, the family finally adopted a kitten named Bluebell in 1319. Also during this year, Sybil aged up into a teenager and Clementine had triplets, and all boys. Clementine and all of the babies miraculously survived the birth, hopefully securing the future of the family. Thank you so much for watching, and I apologize for any spoilers in the family tree. Unfortunately, I do make this as I play, so it does contain some spoilers, but I definitely recommend going to watch the videos if you're interested in knowing any more details about everything that happens. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!